What if I told you that somewhere in the world, an ordinary-looking little coin could be hiding a story so unusual, so mysterious, and so potentially valuable that most people would never think twice before spending it? Welcome back to American Coin Secrets, where every day we bring you freshly updated coin stories, hidden details, fascinating varieties, and collector secrets designed to make you look at coins in a completely different way. Today, we are diving into 3 coins that could surprise even experienced collectors. These are not stories about shiny piles of gold or giant treasure chests buried beneath the ground. Sometimes, the most shocking stories begin with something much smaller, something that can fit into the palm of your hand. And the suspense gets stronger as we move through this countdown. Because one of today's coins has a fascinating modern history that could make collectors look much more carefully at a tiny denomination they may have ignored before. Another has details that separate an ordinary example from something collectors would desperately want to investigate. And when we reach the final coin, you will understand why condition, rarity, and the smallest details can completely change the conversation around a coin. So do not skip ahead. Watch closely, because every coin in this video has its own story, its own clues, and its own reason for attracting collector attention. And remember this, the smallest detail can sometimes be the biggest secret. If you love rare coins, hidden varieties, and fascinating pieces of numismatic history, hit that like button. Subscribe to American Coin Secrets and stay with me until the very end. Because coin number 1 is coming up right now. And it begins with a tiny coin from Poland that carries the denomination of just 1 grosz. But do not let its small size fool you. First up, at first glance, the 2017 MW's Poland 1 grosz looks almost too ordinary to deserve a second look. It is tiny. It is a low denomination. It does not arrive with the dramatic appearance of a massive silver dollar or a glittering gold coin. And that is exactly why a story like this can capture the imagination of collectors. Because the world of coin collecting has taught us something again and again. A coin can look ordinary while carrying a detail that makes collectors stop, examine, compare, research, and ask one powerful question. What exactly do I have here? And when that question begins, the excitement begins. The 1 grosz denomination belongs to Poland's modern currency system, where 100 groszy equal 1 Polish zloty. The denomination itself represents the smallest everyday unit of that monetary structure. Millions of people could see small denomination coins during ordinary transactions without imagining that collectors around the world might someday study particular dates, varieties, production characteristics, or unusual examples. That is one of the beautiful things about numismatics. Coins are not simply pieces of metal. They are historical objects. They are products of their time. They reflect a nation's identity, its economy, its minting technology, and the designs chosen to represent the country. And when collectors discover an unusual variety, a remarkable production characteristic, or a documented rarity, the story of an otherwise familiar coin can become far more exciting. The Poland 1 grosz carries the visual identity of the modern Polish coinage system. Its small format gives it a distinctive character, and its design connects the denomination to the national symbols and modern monetary history of Poland. But here is where serious collectors know they must slow down. The date alone is not always enough. A collector must examine the exact coin carefully. The lettering, the surfaces, the strike, the weight, the diameter, the edge, the metal composition, the die characteristics, and, where relevant, any unusual production details or authenticated varieties associated with the coin. This is where an ordinary-looking coin can become a fascinating mystery. Imagine holding a small 2017 Poland 1 grosz in your fingers. To someone who is not a collector, it might simply appear to be a tiny piece of modern change. But to a numismatist, that is only the beginning. A serious collector begins asking questions. Is the coin exactly as it should be? Does it match the known specifications? Are there unusual characteristics? Does the alleged MW designation correspond to a recognized variety or attribution? Has the coin been professionally authenticated? Does its condition support the claimed value? And perhaps most importantly, is there documented market evidence for the specific example? These questions can turn a casual discovery into a full investigation. And that investigation is part of what makes rare coin collecting so exciting. Because in this hobby, knowledge is power. Two coins can look almost identical to an untrained eye, yet one tiny difference can completely change the collector conversation. That is why experienced collectors use magnification, accurate scales, measurement tools, reference books, auction records, and professional grading services. The smallest detail can matter. A subtle difference in a die, an unexpected production characteristic, an unusual error, a recognized variety, a scarce combination of date and production details, or an extraordinary condition that makes one example stand far above ordinary circulated pieces. And if you are watching this video right now, this is the moment to remember something important. A coin's originality can be one of its most important characteristics. Collectors want to see the real surfaces. They want to study the genuine details. They want to understand exactly what happened during the life and production of that coin. Cleaning a potentially collectible coin can damage the surfaces and reduce its appeal to serious numismatists. So if you ever find a coin that appears unusual, preserve it carefully. Handle it by the edges. Avoid harsh cleaning. Place it in a suitable coin holder. Record where and when you found it. Take clear photographs. And compare it with reliable references or seek professional authentication. Because sometimes the difference between an interesting story and a truly collectible discovery comes down to documentation. Now let us talk about the history and composition behind this tiny Polish denomination. Modern small denomination coins are designed to be practical. Their size, metal composition, durability, and appearance are chosen for everyday circulation. A 1 gross coin is a perfect example of how a country can place national identity into an object small enough to disappear into a pocket. Yet decades later, that same small object can find a completely different life. It can leave circulation. It can enter a collection. It can be examined under magnification. It can be listed in a specialist catalogue. It can be compared with other examples. And, in extraordinary circumstances, a specific authenticated variety or error can become the center of intense collector interest. That is why the word rarity must always be understood correctly. Not every old coin is rare. Not every small coin is valuable. And not every coin carrying a particular date automatically becomes a treasure. True rarity is connected to facts such as surviving population, recognized varieties, demand, condition, authentication, historical importance, and documented market activity. And when several of those factors come together, collectors start paying attention. That is what makes the possibility surrounding a specific 2017 MW Poland 1 gross so interesting. The coin must be examined as the exact example being claimed. If the MW attribution identifies a genuine recognized variety, mint characteristic, or other documented feature, that feature must be independently confirmed. If the extraordinary valuation is connected to an error or unusual production event, authentication becomes even more important. Because a rare coin story becomes much stronger when the evidence is strong. And for serious collectors, evidence is everything. Now think about the emotional side of this hobby. Imagine going through a jar of coins. You hear the familiar sound of metal touching metal. Most pieces are ordinary. Most have circulated through countless hands. But then one coin makes you stop. Maybe the design looks slightly different. Maybe the date catches your attention. Maybe there is a strange detail that does not match another example. That moment of curiosity is the heartbeat of coin collecting. You do not know what you have yet. You begin comparing. You begin researching. You begin checking the details. And suddenly, a tiny coin that once seemed completely unimportant becomes the object of a personal treasure hunt. That feeling is priceless. It is the reason collectors can spend hours studying something that fits on the tip of a finger. And the Poland 1 gross 2017 MW story is a reminder that collectors should never ignore the details simply because the denomination is small. The size of a coin does not determine the size of its story. Now, let us talk about collector demand. Collector demand can grow when a coin has a combination of fascination, scarcity, recognizable characteristics, and a story that collectors want to own. Modern coins can also attract strong attention when collectors identify varieties that were previously overlooked. A coin does not necessarily need to be centuries old to create excitement. Sometimes a modern coin can become interesting precisely because people never expected it to matter. And that surprise factor can be powerful. A collector may spend years searching through ordinary examples before finding a piece that deserves closer examination. That is why patience is one of the greatest tools in numismatics. Check your coins carefully. Compare examples. Learn the normal specifications. Study genuine varieties. And never assume that a tiny denomination cannot hold an important story. Now we come to the condition of this particular example. You described this coin as being in fine condition. Condition matters enormously in the rare coin market because collectors want to know exactly how much original detail remains visible and how the coin compares with other surviving examples. A fine condition coin can still be historically interesting and collectible, particularly when the rarity is connected to a recognized variety, an unusual production characteristic, or another feature that goes beyond ordinary circulation. However, a condition description alone does not establish a high market price. For a major valuation, collectors and buyers generally want confirmation of exactly what makes the coin extraordinary. That means professional examination can be one of the most important steps in the entire process. And now, we have reached the moment you have been waiting for. The moment when the story of this tiny Polish coin becomes connected to the extraordinary value claim provided for this video. According to the value information supplied for this specific Poland 1 grosz 2017 medalis in fine condition, the stated current market value is $45,000. $45,000 for a coin carrying a denomination of only 1 grosz. That is the kind of contrast that can make collectors look twice. A tiny piece of modern coinage, a date that many people could overlook, and a claimed value that, if supported by recognized attribution, authentication, and an actual willing buyer in the market, would place this specific example into a completely different category from an ordinary circulated 1 grosz coin. This is exactly why you should never accept an extraordinary value claim blindly. But you should also never ignore an unusual coin without investigating it. Knowledge protects collectors. Authentication protects collectors. Documentation protects collectors. And a genuine rarity with strong demand can become the kind of discovery that transforms an ordinary coin hunt into something unforgettable. So if you ever come across a 2017 Poland 1 grosz that appears to have unusual characteristics, do not immediately assume it is worth thousands of dollars. Instead, investigate. Compare it with normal examples. Check reliable numismatic references. Have the exact variety identified. And if there is evidence of a significant rarity, consider professional authentication and grading. Because the real treasure is not simply finding a coin. The real treasure is discovering what makes that exact coin special. And that is the lesson collectors should take away from coin number 1. Look closely. Stay curious. Learn the details. And never underestimate the story hidden inside a small piece of metal. The 2017 MW Poland 1 grosz is a perfect reminder that the world of rare coins can be filled with surprises. One day, a coin may be viewed as ordinary. Then collectors discover something. Research begins. Comparisons are made. Examples are studied. And suddenly, a tiny detail becomes the center of an enormous conversation. That is the thrill. That is the mystery. And that is why American Coin Secrets keeps searching for the stories that make collectors stop and look again. But do not go anywhere, because coin number 2 takes us even deeper into the world of unusual and highly fascinating coin discoveries. And if you thought a tiny 1 grosz coin could create a shocking story, wait until you see what is coming next. Before we move on, make sure you are subscribed to American Coin Secrets, because we bring you freshly updated coin content and exciting collector stories regularly. Keep your eyes open. Keep checking your coins. And remember, sometimes the biggest secret is hiding in the smallest place. Next up, now it is time for coin number 2. And this one takes us to India. At first glance, you might think there is nothing mysterious about a 5 rupees coin. It is a familiar denomination, a practical piece of everyday currency. And to many people, it may simply look like another old coin from the early 1990 SS. But serious collectors know something that casual observers often miss. The edge can matter, not just the date. Not just the denomination, not just the design. Sometimes the edge itself can tell part of the story. And today's coin is the India 5 rupees 1992 with a reeded edge in fine condition. This is where the excitement begins, because the early 1990 SRS5 series was produced with different edge varieties and mint-related variations. The 1992 issue includes security edge, reeded edge, and smooth edge varieties, making careful identification far more interesting than simply looking at the large numeral on the reverse. So before we go anywhere near the value, look closely at this coin. Look at the year. Look for the mint mark. Look at the surfaces. And then look carefully around the entire edge, because sometimes the detail hiding around the side of a coin can be the very thing that sends a collector into research mode. The India 5 rupees series from this period represents an important era of modern Indian coinage. The regular circulation type ran from 1992 to 2004 and was struck in copper nickel with a round shape, approximately 23 millimeters in diameter and a weight around 9 grams. On one side, the coin carries the lion capital of Ashoka, one of India's most recognizable national symbols. The inscriptions include Part, India, and Satyamev Jayate, commonly translated as Truth Alone Triumphs. On the other side, the denomination is prominently displayed with decorative floral elements. But here is what makes this particular entry interesting for collectors. The 1992 5 rupees series was not simply one identical coin with one identical edge. Reference listings distinguish multiple varieties, including reeded edge examples. The exact mint attribution matters as well, which means two coins sharing the same date can still deserve different collector analysis. And that is where a tiny piece of metal suddenly becomes a detective story. Imagine searching through an old group of Indian coins. You see the familiar 5 rupees denomination. You see the date 1992. At first, nothing seems extraordinary. But then you turn the coin sideways. And there it is. The edge. Those small grooves. That reeded appearance. Suddenly, you know you cannot judge the coin by the front and back alone. You have to investigate further. You have to identify the exact variety. You have to examine the mint mark. You have to compare the edge against known examples. And you have to ask the question every collector loves to ask. That is the magic of coin collecting. The coin does not have to be covered in gold to attract attention. It does not need to be enormous. It does not need to look dramatic. Sometimes, all it needs is one distinctive characteristic that separates it from the examples most people overlook. For the 1992 India 5 rupees coin, the reeded edge is one of those details worth checking carefully. Major catalogue listings identify a separate KM 154.2 reeded or milled edge variety for 1992. And this is exactly why collectors should never rush. Never assume that every coin with the same date is identical. Never assume that a coin is ordinary simply because the design is familiar. The smallest details can lead to the biggest discoveries. Now let us talk about the composition. The regular 1992-2004 India 5 rupees type is generally listed as copper nickel. This gave the coin a substantial feel compared with many later lightweight circulating issues. Copper nickel coinage has a long history because the alloy provides durability and a distinctive appearance suitable for circulation. And that durability means that many of these coins survived everyday use. But survival is only one part of the collector story. Condition is another. Your example is described as being in fine condition. That means the coin has experienced circulation, but still retains identifiable design details. For a collector, condition helps establish exactly what remains visible and how the example compares with others. But here is the key point. When a coin is being discussed as a potentially extraordinary rarity, collectors need more than a date and a general condition description. They need exact identification. They need authentication. They need to know which mint produced the coin. They need to verify the edge. And they need evidence explaining why that specific example deserves special attention. That investigation is where the suspense becomes real. Because imagine discovering that a coin you almost ignored deserves professional examination. Imagine realizing that the mint mark, edge variety, die characteristics, or another unusual feature might make it different from the ordinary examples surrounding it. That is not just collecting. That is a treasure hunt. And every serious collector knows the first rule of a potential discovery. Do not polish the coin. Do not scrub it with chemicals. Do not attempt to make it look new. Original surfaces can matter to collectors and grading experts. If you find a 1992 India 5 rupees coin with a reeded edge that appears unusual, protect it. Hold it by the edges. Place it in a suitable holder. Photograph both sides. Photograph the edge if possible. Record the weight and diameter. Check the mint mark. And compare it with reliable catalogue references and professionally attributed examples. Because if a coin really has an unusual and valuable characteristic, proper identification is the gateway to understanding its true collector potential. Now let us return to the rarity question. The existence of a separate reeded edge variety does not automatically mean that every 1992 reeded edge coin is a fortune. The available catalogue and price guide information shows that standard 1992 reeded edge examples can have relatively modest listed values depending on mint and grade. For example, the NGC Numismatic Guide lists a 1992C milled edge, KM 134.2 at much lower values in ordinary collectible grades, while Numista separately lists multiple 1992 edge and mint varieties. And that makes one thing incredibly important. If a specific coin is being claimed to have an extraordinary value, there must be an extraordinary reason. Perhaps a documented and authenticated error. Perhaps a highly unusual variety. Perhaps exceptional provenance. Perhaps an important certification or a specialized collector market. Without that evidence, a standard reeded edge 1992 RS5 coin should not automatically be represented as having an extraordinary market price. But now we come to the dramatic value claim supplied for this specific video entry. The stated value provided for your particular India 5 rupees 1992 reeded edge coin in fine condition is $80,000. $80,000. That is an enormous claimed figure for a coin with a face value of only 5 rupees. And if an example truly achieved that level of value through a documented sale, recognized rarity, authentication, and strong collector demand, it would not simply be an ordinary old coin. It would represent a remarkable numismatic discovery. That is the kind of story that can make a collector's heart race. A small coin, an old date, a reeded edge, and a detail so important that the right evidence could completely change the way collectors view the piece. But remember, real treasure stories are strongest when they are backed by proof. So if you believe you have a coin like this, do not rely on social media price claims alone. Verify the exact variety. Check the mint attribution. Compare the edge. Seek authentication from a respected numismatic expert or grading service. And research documented auction results. Because in the world of rare coins, proof can be just as valuable as the coin itself. And that brings us to the biggest lesson from this 1992 India 5 rupees reeded edge coin. Most people look at the front. Some people look at the back. But collectors who want to discover something special look at everything. They study the edge. They study the mint marks. They compare weights. They search for die varieties. They examine unusual details. They ask questions. And sometimes those questions lead to discoveries nobody expected. So if you have old Indian coins stored away in a drawer, a collection, a coin album, or a forgotten container, take a closer look. Check every date. Check every mint mark. Check every edge. Because the next coin you examine may have a story waiting to be uncovered. And whether it turns out to be a standard circulation coin or something genuinely rare, the thrill of the investigation is where the journey begins. That is why coin collecting continues to fascinate people around the world. Every coin is a piece of history. Every variety is a clue. Every unusual feature is an invitation to investigate. And sometimes what looks ordinary at first can become the beginning of an unforgettable search. So keep your eyes open. Keep learning. Keep comparing. And never underestimate the power of one small detail. because coin number 2 has shown us that even the edge of a coin can become part of the mystery. But we are not finished yet. There is still coin number 3. And if you think the story of a 1992 India 5 rupees reeded edge coin was fascinating, wait until you see what comes next. Stay with American Coin Secrets, where we bring you freshly updated coin stories and collector discoveries regularly. Because the final coin in today's countdown is ready to reveal its secret. Next up, and now, we have reached the final coin of today's incredible countdown. Coin number 3. This is the moment where every true coin collector should pay close attention, because the final coin is proof that you should never underestimate a small denomination. Our final coin is the India 1 rupee, dated 2004 in fine condition. 1 rupee. Just a small coin. Something that could easily disappear into an old collection, a forgotten coin jar, a drawer, or a box filled with pieces that nobody has examined in years. But sometimes, the coins people overlook are the very coins that make them stop and ask one unforgettable question. That is where the mystery of the 2004 India 1 rupee begins. The 2004 date is especially interesting because India had different 1 rupee designs associated with that period. One regular circulation type from the 1992-2004 series used stainless steel, weighed about 4.85 grams, measured 25 millimeters, and existed with smooth or reeded edge varieties depending on the type. There was also a 2004 Unity in Diversity 1 rupee issue with a different design, stainless steel composition, 25 millimeter diameter, and a plain edge. And that is exactly why a collector cannot simply look at the date and stop there. The date is only the beginning. You have to look at the design. You have to look at the edge. You have to look for the mint mark. You have to examine every detail. Because 2 coins carrying the same year can tell completely different stories. Imagine finding an old 1 rupee coin and noticing the date, 2004. Most people might immediately think they know what it is. But a serious collector turns the coin over, studies the design, checks the symbols, looks at the edge, searches for a mint mark, and begins comparing it with known varieties. That is when a simple coin becomes a mystery. The regular 1 rupee design from this era features India's national emblem, the lion capital of Ashoka, along with Bharat India and the national motto Satyamev Jayate. The reverse design includes the denomination and decorative elements associated with the series. This is not merely a design. It is a small piece of national identity. A coin designed for everyday use can travel from one hand to another for years. It can pass through markets, homes, shops, collections, and countless transactions. And then one day, someone puts it aside. Someone notices the date. Someone notices a detail. Someone starts researching. And suddenly, that little piece of stainless steel is no longer just another coin. It becomes a question waiting to be answered. Now let us talk about one of the most important details for this coin. The 2004 India 1 rupee can have different varieties associated with design and mint characteristics. The regular 2004 issue, for example, has listings connected to different mints and edge varieties. That means collectors must never assume that every 2004 coin is identical. A mint mark can matter. The exact design can matter. The edge can matter. An unusual production characteristic can matter. And, in the case of a potentially extraordinary rarity, professional authentication can matter more than anything else. This is where the excitement reaches another level. Imagine examining a coin that appears completely ordinary. Then you compare it with another example. And suddenly, you notice something different. Maybe the design does not match. Maybe the edge is unusual. Maybe the mint mark tells a different story. Maybe the coin has an unexpected striking characteristic. Maybe there is a production error. That is the moment when curiosity becomes a treasure hunt. And this is why collectors should never destroy the evidence. If you believe you have an unusual 2004 India 1 rupee, do not polish it. Do not scrub it. Do not attempt to make it shine. Do not use chemicals. Preserve the original surfaces. Handle the coin by its edges. Take clear photographs. Record its weight and measurements. Compare it with verified examples. And seek expert authentication if the coin appears to have a significant variety or minting error. Because in the rare coin world, one detail can separate an ordinary coin from a coin with a completely different collector story. Now let us focus on your example. You described this India 1 rupee 2004 coin as being in fine condition. That means condition is already part of the story. Collectors study condition because it helps them understand how much detail remains and how the example compares with other surviving pieces. But condition alone does not create an extraordinary price. For a coin to command a truly exceptional amount, there normally needs to be a compelling reason. A recognized rare variety, a major minting error, exceptional provenance, a unique production characteristic, or strong documented demand from collectors competing for the same scarce piece. And this is where the suspense becomes intense. Because standard references list ordinary 2004 1 rupee examples at very modest collector values. For example, Numista's listed values for standard 2004 examples are generally far below extraordinary 5-figure prices, depending on variety and condition. So if a specific example is claimed to be worth an enormous amount, the collector must discover what makes that exact coin different. And that investigation could be the most exciting part of the entire story. Maybe the coin is not an ordinary example. Maybe there is a rare error. Maybe there is an unusual die characteristic. Maybe there is a documented variety that has been overlooked. Maybe the exact coin has provenance or certification that changes its position in the collector market. That is why knowledge is such a powerful tool. The biggest mistake a collector can make is assuming. Never assume a coin is worthless just because it is small. But also, never assume a coin is worth a fortune simply because someone online says it is rare. Investigate. Compare. Authenticate. Document. That is how a real coin discovery becomes a credible numismatic story. Now, we have reached the final dramatic reveal. The value supplied for this specific India 1 rupee 2004 coin in fine condition is $50,000. $50,000. For a single 1 rupee coin, that is an extraordinary claimed value. If an exact example truly achieved a $50,000 market price, it would need powerful supporting evidence such as authentication, a recognized rarity or error, and documented buyer demand. The ordinary 2004 issues listed in standard collector references do not support a $50,000 value by themselves. But this is exactly why the world of coin collecting is so exciting. The real secret is always in the details. A coin that looks ordinary to one person may deserve closer examination by another. A tiny difference may lead to research. Research may lead to identification. Identification may reveal an unusual variety. And an authenticated rarity can create enormous collector interest. That is why you should always look closely at every coin. Check the date. Check the design. Check the edge. Check the mint mark. Check the weight. Check for unusual errors or varieties. And above all, never destroy a potentially important coin before you know exactly what it is. The 2004 India 1 rupee is the perfect final reminder that coin collecting is not about guessing. It is about discovering. It is about history. It is about details. It is about curiosity. And sometimes it is about realizing that the smallest object in your collection has the biggest story. So imagine this. You are searching through old coins. You find a 2004 India 1 rupee. At first, you almost put it aside. Then you remember what you learned today. You stop. You look again. You examine the edge. You compare the design. You check the mint mark. And the search begins. Maybe it is an ordinary coin. Or maybe it contains a detail that deserves much closer investigation. That possibility is what keeps collectors searching. That possibility is what makes every coin jar exciting. And that possibility is why a true coin enthusiast never stops learning. Today, we explored 3 fascinating coins and 3 powerful reminders that the world of numismatics is filled with surprises. We began with the Poland 1 Grosz 2017 MEW. Then we examined the mystery surrounding the India 5 rupees 1992 with a reeded edge. And finally, we reached the India 1 rupee 2004 Ampere's small coin with a story that reminds us to examine every detail before deciding what a coin truly represents. So which of these 3 coins surprised you the most? Which one would you love to discover in an old collection? And which coin do you think has the most fascinating story? Leave your answer in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare and unusual coins, make sure to like this video and subscribe to American Coin Secrets. We bring you freshly updated coin stories regularly, exploring fascinating dates, varieties, mint marks, historical backgrounds, and the tiny details that collectors should never ignore. Because your next discovery might not be hiding inside a giant treasure chest. It might already be sitting quietly in an old collection. It might be waiting inside a forgotten box. It might be hiding among coins that everyone else ignored. So keep searching, keep learning, keep examining every detail. And remember the most important secret of all. Never underestimate a coin simply because it looks ordinary. This is American Coin Secrets. And the next hidden coin story may be even more surprising than the last.